Hi, I'm Andy Ely, Senior Funeral Director with G. Seller Independent Funeral Directors. We've been serving bereaved families since 1910. I'm sure you're all well aware there's lots and lots of different myths, misconceptions and taboos surrounding what goes on within the funeral profession. And we've decided to put this series of podcasts together to try and answer some of those questions and of course dispel any of those myths. So please do like, share and subscribe and send the questions, send them to liftingthelid@gseller.co.uk and we will do our absolute best to answer them for you. It genuinely is our family caring for your family. Today's episode is slightly different. My colleague Amy will be acting as host and taking the lead on the questions. We have a special guest, Malin Andersson. You may know her from Love Island, but also in her own right, she's an author, a motivational speaker, and in her own words, healing the world one bit at a time through her own trauma. So I'm going to hand over to Amy.
Thanks, Andy. So we're joined with the wonderful Malin Andersson. Marlin's had a lot of highs in her life, and that's also been coupled with a lot of lows. She's had a lot of tragedy, a lot of upset, and a lot of close losses. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Malin to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
No, thanks for being here. It's great to see you. So some of our listeners will absolutely already know who you are. They'll know your story inside and out. There'll be a handful of people that may know of you and know some things that they've seen through the news and press. And then there'll be some of our listeners that won't know anything, but I think there's so much about you that they can relate to you. And I think you'll very much connect with a lot of our audience. So let's just take things back to the very beginning for those people that don't know you. Tell us a bit about you, where you're from, your family, and kind of where you are today.
Yeah, so my name's Malin. I was born in Sweden and I moved to England when I was about 3 years old. My dad passed away when I was 11 months old, so I don't remember him. But my mum brought me and my sister to England. And yeah, I've had quite a strange life, I think. I was cabin crew for years and then I came back because my mum got ill. And I went on Love Island. She had breast cancer when I was 9 years old. And then it came back 11 years later. Mm-hmm. And then she had it removed, her breast. And the same time she had stomach cancer growing inside her stomach and it was stage 4 already. And that was just after I came off the show, literally, I think 6 months.
Wow.
And then she died within quite a quick, short frame of time, within like 3 months. And then, yeah, it was a bit of a whirlwind because I just come off the show. I was navigating life and then that happened and I was like, what's going on? And then I met my ex, I think literally a few months after my mum dying.
Yeah.
He was absolutely awful and abusive. And I became pregnant quite quickly with him. And then baby Consy was born about 6 weeks early, 6 weeks premature. And then she got administered to Great Ormond Street because she had a heart condition. Yeah. But she survived for a month and then she passed away. And then her dad went to jail for domestic abuse. I'm laughing.
So a lot of trauma and a lot of heartache in such a short period of time.
And then the years after, kind of post that, is just me navigating through life and getting through grief and healing and taking a journey to heal.
Yeah, massively. So let's just rewind right to the very beginning with your first loss. So dad.
Yeah.
So dad passed away when you were 11 months old?
Yeah.
So how old was your sister at that point?
So my sister was about 9 years old and she was very close with him. So she took
has a lot of memories.
Yeah, a lot of memories. And my 2 older brothers have memories too.
Yeah.
He died of skin cancer. He had it 3 times and it spread to his bone.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he was already really poorly when you were born.
Yeah, and he told my mum, he goes, tell Marlon that I held her when she was born so she remembers that. And that's the only kind of thing. And I've got videos off what was the camera? You know those old school.
Like a Polaroid on. Press the button, you get what? 20 pictures in a film.
Yeah. So yeah, Mum used to tell me little stories like that. But other than that, I have no clue who he is really.
So at what point did you feel like, hang on a minute, I don't have a dad. I don't have these memories. Did you ever get delayed grief from that, from not knowing him and from trying to get to know him through your siblings and through mum? Did you ever feel a sense of loss, or was it because it's always been the norm? There's never been that feeling?
I think going through school when I was younger, I used to find it weird that everyone else had a dad and I didn't. And I didn't really understand that. So lower school, middle school and upper school. And I think me not having a father also gave me it carved a bad path of unhealthy, toxic relationships and attracting men that were abusive, because I think I wanted love and I didn't understand what it was from like, you know, a father giving me a hug, that kind of thing.
And like seeing mum and dad together and like that relationship form and like, okay, this is normal,
exactly that. And so, I think the loss kind of, I understood it more when my friends had both their parents and I was like, oh, but I wouldn't have known otherwise.
Yeah. So what age did it start to become apparent when you were in reception? Like 4, 5?
Yeah, I'd say that. Yeah, definitely.
Around more children.
I remember saying, Mum, I miss Daddy, but I didn't even know him, so why was I saying that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's always a soul connection. He's my dad, you know, it's in the genes, in the DNA.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you ever feed off any emotions from like how mum was feeling from loss of dad, or like your siblings, and then you think they then became 100%. Your feelings?
Yeah, my mum was very depressed. I think she didn't want to tell us, but she suffered with depression and mental health. She tried to kill herself in front of me quite a few times when I was a young kid. I remember it.
Oh my God.
And I think she had to raise 4 children on her own. She moved to England and she struggled a lot. And that's the healing I've done as an adult, is that childhood trauma of me taking on my mum's feelings and emotions as a young kid and trying to help her, because they're our caregivers. We shouldn't be helping them, you know. It's like reverse roles. Absolutely. So I'm doing a lot of that.
You don't appreciate what they do to you until like you're either walking a little bit of the same path as you've got children. You can kind of put things into place, and definitely. That jigsaw forms a bit of a better picture.
Yeah.
So with that and being at school and carrying like some of these emotions, did you ever get any help through school? Was there ever any support? Was there any like, Marley may have been naughty and it could be triggered by this, or a loss of somebody? Was there?
No. And I remember being around 8 years old when my mum got diagnosed with breast cancer, and I was really upset and sad. Yeah. But there was nothing in the school. I'm trying to think now. There was nothing to help me or understand.
And I think it's like such a big gap at the minute. I mean, we're trying to combat it and going into schools and training the like teachers and the pupils, because it's not just like you're in isolation feeling a loss of sadness, aren't you? Or, you know, like mum's poorly. You've got in your little mind, you're trying to deal with all those emotions. The teacher's not too sure how to respond to you in those emotions.
Exactly.
And then your friends around you, because it's like, oh, why isn't she happy today? Oh, come on, she was fine yesterday. Like, why would she be sad? Why would she be sad today? So I think there's a lot to be said for like help in schools, and it's sad to hear that you didn't get that at that point.
I think back in the day though, I think this is a lot different. But I don't know what's going on in schools now with that either, to be fair.
There's definitely a little bit more going on. I think it's like more spoken about, especially mental health since kind of COVID times. I think it's kind of come to the fore massively. Mental health, mental illness, it's all kind of intertwined, isn't it? But then kind of the loss of people and everything that's fed into that. So,
true.
Yeah. So mum, a true warrior in your life?
Yeah, she was a strong woman, fiery character. She did a good job.
So was it mum from Sweden or?
Mum's from Sri Lanka, dad's Sweden. Yeah. So when I think about it, she was ill pretty much my whole life from a child, you know, breast cancer, recovering, chemo, and then you know being on medication her whole life, in and out of hospital checkups, and then.
So how did she do that, looking after herself, looking after 4 children, and going to work, because she went to work as well, like in between points?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. And looking back, I'm like, geez, you know.
She's like a true warrior.
And she just put on a brave face and got on with it.
Bless her. So she came out into remission. She was then...
Yeah, she was clear for how many years? Well, 20 years, I think. 25 years she was clear. And then, just came back. But it's a funny one, cancer. Yeah. She took her HRT tablets when she was younger, and hormone replacement. And... because none of my aunties had it. It was a weird thing.
Something that kind of like came in.
So it was a shock when she did have it.
How did you and your siblings kind of react differently to mum being poorly? Or were you all very similar in the fact that you were...
All quite different. My brother lives in LA, so he flew out and stayed when my mum was ill. My sister, she's down the road, so she came to visit. My brother in London, he was a bit of a different one. He didn't want to go... on the day of her funeral... he was all ready to go, and then he just went and slept in her bed upstairs and didn't want to come to the funeral. He just stayed in her room in her bed.
So who planned her funeral?
My stepdad at the time. Yeah.
So did you and your siblings have any involvement in it?
Yeah, a little bit, but he mainly did most of
Everything?
it. Yeah.
So you don't remember kind of the finer details of the planning and all the logistics that come with it?
No.
So you're sheltered from that, which in some ways I think is great, isn't it? Like, you
Yeah.
know, so you can actually spend that time and grieve mum. Yeah. But then on the other side, for some people, it's like part of the healing process, isn't it? You know, going through all the smaller details and like planning everything. You've obviously been on a massive journey already, like up to that point. You've lost 2 people. Then you then lose a friend from who's on Love Island with you. How does that compare to what you've already been through? A completely different loss. Yeah. Someone that you're not seeing every day or are seeing every day.
You know, I wasn't seeing every day, or maybe every few months or so. Mm-hmm. And it's a shock, especially when it's suicide and you had no clue that they were suffering in their own mind. And there's a lot of kind of regret where you think, oh God, I could have helped her, but then I wasn't to know. And when you grieve a friend, it's a different kind of feeling, but it's still grief, isn't it?
Yeah, massively. So were you friends with her? Were you friends with her before the show? Was it a friendship that you got through the show? Yeah. And then like, do you ever speak to any of her family and friends?
No, they were quite
closed
about it. Oh yeah,
that's fair enough.
Yeah,
bless her. And then we move on to your beautiful baby.
Yeah, little Consy.
Bless her. Let's just go back to the beginning. So was baby Consy planned? Like, was she?
No, she wasn't planned. No, not at all.
Was she a surprise?
Yeah.
Bless her. So a surprise baby, and I know that you had, because you've spoken openly before about eating disorders, bulimia, anorexia. Yeah. I get that. I've been there at one point in my life. How did you feel about your body changing and growing a little person? Because I think that's quite an interesting point to talk on. Because I know that when I was pregnant, that shift in my mind was the fact of like, I'm here, I've got to be fully functioning for this little person that I'm growing. It's not about me anymore. It's completely about this little person. Where did you sit in all of that?
It was weird because it was all new to me. It was the first time I'd been pregnant. My body was changing, but I was in a very volatile relationship. So I didn't put myself first then anyway, because I was with someone that was abusing me, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I don't think I actually put myself first. I mean, I ate well. I wasn't bothered that my body was changing. I found it beautiful. And I thought, it's a blessing because my mum has just died and this is a sign.
She's meant to be here.
That's why I named her after my mum.
Yeah, bless her. So you didn't feel like you enjoyed that?
No, the pregnancy was awful.
Journey.
Terrible, yeah. Awful.
So at what point, so she had a rare heart condition, as you said right at the very beginning.
Yeah.
At what point did you know that?
Well, I didn't at all. The whole pregnancy was fine. Every scan was fine, every checkup. And then just suddenly one evening, she just stopped moving. And then I was like, I need to go to the hospital. And then they were like, we need to take her out. Emergency C-section. And then,
as sudden as that.
Yeah.
So you didn't even get a chance to kind of enjoy pregnancy. And then you didn't even get the chance to go through every birth's completely different, isn't it? We didn't even get the chance to do that. So when she's then born, talk me through that. So a rushed cesarean?
Yeah, it was rushed and she was taken. I didn't even get to hold her or see her. And then we got transported to 2 different hospitals and then ended up at Great Ormond Street.
And did you travel with her at every point?
Yeah. I just took I had a C-section. I couldn't even walk, but I got in the wheelchair and was like, I'm going.
But that's funny what you do all of a sudden, that maternal instinct. It's like, right, I'm here, I'm showing up, I'm doing whatever I need to do.
And then I lived at the parents' accommodation for a month and went to I was just by her side every day, watching her up and down, okay one day, not the next, until I was in such denial about it. She looked like a swollen, I couldn't even describe how she looked like, off meds and everything, where even if she did survive, she would have had severe brain damage through all the medications that was being pumped through her body. Yeah, it was mental. So
what support did you get when you were in the hospital and then you're staying there? Were the nurses good with you? Did they did they plan that she may not live forever?
They were just quite, each day was different, so they'd just comment on how the day was going, not the future. They had a family liaison unit, which they were fine. Not really much to say on that, I think. It was okay. It was
Does it feel a bit of a blur?
Yeah, I don't really remember much
like,
of that.
Looking back, I bet massively. Because they never kind of said to you, we don't think she's going to be here and have a long life. I guess you never thought about a funeral for her?
No, not at all.
So at what point did that come into the mind, or was that literally one? When she passed.
And even when she passed, I was like, I'm not organising anything. Someone else can do it. I didn't even want to
Like defences up, like.
Yeah, so her dad's aunties organised it and did it all. So.
Did her dad? Was her dad with you whilst you were in hospital?
Not all the time, no.
Cause,
no, he was with his other children back home.
So I always find it interesting, like, you know, we're privileged to like carry our children and we have a connection with these little people.
Yeah.
And then the men, they're kind of there but not there. They're connected but not connected. There's this closeness because it's their baby.
Yeah.
But then they're so far away because they haven't felt the heartbeat or the kicks or the movements. So I always find it interesting on how he coped. Do you remember how he coped? Like, was there ever any conversation? He
was quite closed.
So before we start talking about the funeral side of things and that's that point of time, what comforted you through hospital? Was it friend support? Were you just taking every moment as it came?
Yeah, I just had a lot of hope for some reason, and I was on my own quite a lot. I had some friends around me, but I think I just had this fire inside me to get on with each day, and I don't know where it came from.
And she'll be okay.
Yeah.
And she's like a little warrior, like mum.
She shouldn't have even lasted. Like, she should have died inside of me, really, if that makes sense. So it was strange how she survived for a month.
Yeah, bless her, true little fighter. Yeah. You say in one of your books that the sun stands on its own and it still manages to shine every day.
Yeah.
How do you manage to shine every day from at this point, all of that's gone on?
I think a lot of inner work, healing, taking time for myself, and really digging deep and understanding why things have happened and how my life has been and my childhood and generational trauma, and just kind of making sure that I've worked on myself.
So you're angry at any point for like the traumas that you've had? No,
I'm not angry. I think I'm more when I used to be in victim mentality quite a bit, where I'd be like, why did this happen to me? Yeah. But when you heal and you see life differently, you understand why that happened.
So how did you heal? Because I feel like people will be watching and be like, tell me the answer. Like, how do I get better? Like, how do I stop being the victim? And
I think it's time, right? It's time. So grief has no time frame anyway. It's sporadic. It comes in waves, but it gets easier a little bit. And for me, I meditate every night. I try and rewire my brain, my nervous system.
Who's taught you that?
So loads of things, loads of research. So self-development books, courses. It's neuroscience. So rewiring every part of my brain and every bit of my life to show me that my self-worth is there and that I deserve a life of happiness. And it takes time, but with binaural beats and meditation and journaling and yoga and exercise and healthy eating and good people around you, your mind just shifts perspective and you evolve. But you can stay in a place of lack, and you can stay in a place of victim mentality, and you can stay in a place of bad people around you drinking alcohol, numbing the pain through shopping, through sex, through drinking, drugs, whatever you want to choose. Or you can take a step out and do it the way, how you can move forward.
So from this self-healing, do you still get to enjoy a glass of wine? Or is the wine in the cupboard and away?
It's a funny thing. When my mum died, I drank a lot and I went out a lot. And looking back, that was my way of coping. So now I've got a little one. I don't drink half as much as I used to. But if I do like one wine or two wines, but sometimes I can't just have two though. I have to have 3 or 4. If it's Prosecco, I'll have the whole bottle. So I'm like,
it's gonna be flat tomorrow. I'll just carry on.
And my body can't hack it anymore. But I'm really into my fitness at the minute. So it's just nice to wake up with a refreshed mind and a clear focus.
Yeah.
Because if you start incorporating a depressant. Yeah. Like, you're going to feel shit anyway. So
have you ever taken medication?
Yeah. When I was pregnant with Zaya, I suffered with postnatal depression, and prenatal depression because of Consy. And a lot of feelings were brought up And
Massively.
I was on antidepressants.
I was going to say, like, kind of going through a pregnancy again, knowing that what you'd been through.
Yeah, I was like, she's going to die, she's going to die, she's going to die.
Anxiety through the roof.
Yeah,
Did the
awful.
medication help?
No. a little bit, but
Were you meditating through the second pregnancy?
I tried. I was just a psycho bitch. I was a psycho. But a lot of suppressed feelings came up. And I was like severely depressed when I was pregnant.
Yeah.
Her dad was brilliant, helped me a lot throughout the pregnancy. But yeah, she's here now. She's an absolute nut job, which is brilliant.
Kids as well for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like keeping you on your toes, like every day,
Yeah.
every day. So how do you find being a mum, not having your mum around?
That was hard to grasp at the beginning because there'd be things like, Mum, where are you? Help me when she's screaming at 4 a.m. and I'm on my own. Because her dad left when she was 2 months old. So I did it all on my own. And I'd be like crying out for my mum. It'd be the first person I'd cry out for. And I'd be like, oh, you haven't met her. You know, I wish you were here to see her.
Is she like mum?
Just like her.
Really?
It's weird, yeah. Certain things, certain characteristics. She's very sassy and fiery.
Love that.
Very sassy. No. You know, she's like, no. And I'm like, whoa. But I know my mum can see her and feel her, you know.
Yeah.
So.
I like that a lot. Bless her. So just going back to baby Consy, so she sadly passes away in hospital.
Yeah.
So she'd never lived a life out of hospital.
No, I never got to hold her.
So, wow, never.
No, they said at the end when she had died, I said no thanks.
Just didn't feel right.
No.
Couldn't go there. I get that. So she's never come home. So how was that leaving the hospital, knowing that you're leaving your little person behind, and you were meant to, like, in an ideal world, you were meant to leave hospital with her and start a new life as a mum.
Yeah, that was confusing and strange. I felt so much emptiness within me. But then also on the flip side, I never formed a bond with her because I didn't even hold her or feed her or breastfeed her. Mm-hmm. My milk was being put in a tube to feed her. So I never had that connection in that sense.
Yeah.
So it desensitizes you to being a mum anyway. Yeah. So
you didn't feel like you got the true essence of...
I would have suffered, if she survived, I would have suffered quite badly with some sort of trauma from me not connecting with her. That would have, like, messed with my mind quite a lot, you know?
Yeah.
I reckon.
I get that completely. So you've left the hospital. Do you see her again afterwards?
In the morgue of Great Ormond Street, and she looked okay-ish, like, in terms of how she looked like.
Yeah.
Because all the fluid had gone. And she looked like her again.
So you never saw her in the funeral home? You only ever saw her
once to the funeral home when she had been embalmed, yeah.
Bless you. So who planned the funeral then? So you've left, you're now in I guess your hormones are still all over the place, like, you know.
Yeah,
I don't think we level out until about 6 months after having a baby, do we?
No, my hair was falling out still, like 6 months after she died.
Milk
was coming out still, yeah.
Bless you.
His side of the family
just
arranged it, yeah.
Everything. And how are you with that now, knowing that they sorted it?
Fine. Yeah.
You're at peace with that?
Yeah, I'm at peace with that, yeah.
Yeah. So she's laid to rest in a cemetery?
Yeah, with her grandma on his side, which is nice.
And do you visit her much?
I try to sometimes. I've taken Zaya there a few times.
She's got a big sister.
Yeah. But I don't find that much peace in going to a grave.
It's interesting because everyone's so different. Some people do, and I remember when we were talking before we started filming, like, you've got mum in a little bit of jewellery, haven't you?
Yeah.
So she's close with you in that way. Dad, is he laid to rest in his...
He's in Sweden, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he's buried in Sweden, so I haven't seen him in a while.
So Dad's in... Mum's
cremated, scattered on Brighton Beach, yeah. Got a bit of a necklace from her.
Bless. So, like, all three people that are really close to you laid to rest in three very, very different ways.
Yeah.
Does the grief ever merge? So do you ever feel a great sadness because of all three of them?
Or no, so in fact, I feel quite a lot more protected because I can feel their energy and I feel like they're my little angels, you know, looking down for me. And I've had quite a lot of good luck since they've died. Yeah. Not in a strange way. Like, things have just kind of
like the bad's happened,
which is really strange because I'd love them to be here and see everything. Yeah, my life I've changed completely and become a better person since they have died. Mental, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So what self-care tips would you offer to people to make that journey better? I mean, I know that in your book you've said things like screen time, like limit screen time.
Yeah.
You're a strong believer in that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the first thing I do is I check the time when she wakes me up, and then I'm like, damn, why did I do that? Because I can't go back to sleep. It's the blue light. It's awful.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of, like, you should have your own tools ready to hand for when you get triggered by things, when you feel anxiety or grief coming up. But the most important thing is to feel the emotions and not run away from it.
Yeah.
The only way to get through it is to feel it.
Yeah.
And that's what I did at the beginning. I'd run away from how I felt. So by using certain tools that will help you get through that emotion and feel it, I'd say that. But journaling helped me a lot.
So journaling, so writing down all your emotions.
Yeah, writing down
your
everything.
Feelings.
Yeah, meditating, just closing your eyes, deep breathing, getting a cold
Just taking
shower.
a minute
Yeah.
Just for yourself, isn't it?
100%.
Rather than getting lost in like that, the fast-paced world that we live in. And you also say that positivity is your superpower.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's one thing to like leave people with, isn't it?
Yeah.
Stay positive.
Stay positive, but positivity has to come from a natural place as well, because otherwise you're putting on a plaster over a wound, and it's an act. So to become positive, one must figure out why one isn't positive. Yeah. So working through all these bits of trauma and navigating through every little bit and kind of opening up these plasters and dealing with the wound. Otherwise it's just going to get worse and it'll come out even...
So when you were dealing with each one, did you start unravelling things that you didn't even realise were a problem?
Yeah, 100%.
And were you shocked by those things and thinking like, wow, I didn't even think that I was even bothered by X emotion, but I'm talking about it and I'm now crying about it, for example, or
definitely.
I'm journaling it and I'm writing it down, but I thought that was dealt with.
Yeah, definitely.
Bless you. Okay, so if you could have 1 more minute with Mum, what would you say to her?
I'd say, why didn't she tell me how to cook chicken curry? Because literally she used to cook. Yeah. Why didn't you ever teach me? But then I was a little twat. I used to be like, go away, Mum, not bothered, And she used to knock on my bedroom door and I'm like, I'm busy. And I wish I'd just open the door and have a chat with her. And she'd be like,
Mum always used to say to you though, like, I'm not going anywhere, I'm fine. Like, I'm
all
okay.
the time.
So then you've got this thing of like, you're always going to be here. Chicken curry next week.
Yeah. But
or the week after.
You just don't know what life is, it just changes.
Yeah, massively. And if you had 1 more minute with baby Consy, what would you say to her? Or what would you want her to know?
That she's a bigger sister, which is crazy because Zaya will go up to a photo and go, Daddy, and I'll be like, no. And she always goes up to it. And I'm like, it's your sister. And she just holds it and potters around with it. And I'm like, what are you doing? Put it back. And she smashes it. But she loves it. It's weird.
I love that. Is the photos of her all around the house? Do you have
there's
many
a few.
photos?
Yeah. I didn't get too many of her because she just deteriorated really quickly, but there's a tube in a lot of her photos. But there's a few around the house and my mum as well.
I like that. I think this episode's been really powerful and impactful. I think a lot of people are going to connect with you on so many different levels from everything that you've been through. I think it's great that you still show up and you still smile. And I think your social media is great and that you're giving people positivity in like so many different ways. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And back over to Andy. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Malin. Absolutely brutally honest responses there. It was a really, really interesting episode. I'm sure you'll agree. As always, please do like, share and subscribe. If you have any questions, send them to liftingthelid@gseller.co.uk. We will always do our best to answer them for you, and we'll see you next time.